Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, this is Dean Meadows for another episode of Dean's Dialogue in association with the Daily Apologist. Thank you for being with me once again. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Just real quick, if you have not checked out Jack Lipsy's new podcast called CultureCast over at thedailyapologist.com, you need to go and you need to listen to that. It is awesome. That was a great episode 1. Probably one of the best first episodes of a podcast I've ever heard. So good job with that. Jack, this is your free shout out on my part. Also, next month, I'll be doing a program with Ralph Gilmore from Freed Hardeman called Reasoning with Ralph. Ralph Gilmore is a professor in philosophy at Freed Hardeman University, lecturer, speaker, debater, has impacted a ton of people in the kingdom of God, and I am just honored and privileged to do that. So be looking out for that. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, which gives you a weekly update and a monthly update about the things that are going on here at the Daily Apologist, please go over there and check that out. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Just go to thedailyapologist.com, hit subscribe, put in your email address, and boom, you are in with the gang here. So all right, those are the news and notes. Let's go ahead and get into today's episode. So, last time that we got together, we talked about the importance of the manuscript evidence and noted that as far as transmission goes, the New Testament is 99.5% accurate. And today we're going to really start to look at that 0.5%, because there are a lot of arguments made off of that 0.5%. Specifically dealing with those variants, right? And as I've said before on the show, when it comes to doing damage to young adults' faith, a lot of people, maybe in the media or on the blogs, want to say, well, it's Dawkins, it's Harris, it's Dennett, it's the late Christopher Hitchens. And I disagree with that, just in my personal experience. I think the person who's done the most damage to the faith of young adults in the church is Bart Ehrman. Now, why do I say that? For those of you who don't know, Bart Ehrman is a New Testament scholar and professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And in 2005, he wrote a book called Misquoting Jesus, which was a surprise New York Times bestseller of the year. I mean, he got a bestseller off of textual criticism. Think about that. Now, why did he do it? Or why did that happen? Well, because in his book, he talks about the unreliability of the New Testament. So unlike Dawkins, who's usually going to appeal to biology, unlike Harris and Hitchens, who have and do appeal to the poison that religion is, so to speak, on their view, and Dennett talks about how Christianity is just or faith and religion is just a delusion of the mind. Ehrman deals with the subject matter directly. He's not making a philosophical argument, so to speak. He's saying, hey, textually, it's not right. Textually, it's corrupt. Textually, you can't understand it. And so one of his patented arguments, and one of the things that you will come across and that I've come across a lot, is this argument where he says in his book that there's 200,000 to 400,000 textual variants in all the New Testament manuscripts, but there are only 138,000 words. So what does this mean? Without further explanation, someone could imagine that every single word could be in doubt, with some of these words having 3 to 4 alternatives. Now think about this for a second. You hear this for the first time as a young adult in your freshman year at any college, and you haven't been prepared for this by your parents. You haven't been prepared for this by your minister, youth minister, elders, deacons, anybody in the church. Nobody has ever revealed this kind of stuff to you. No one's ever shown you, the objections that you're going to come across in your life. And you hear this for the first time. What's going to go through their mind? Well, nobody on the faith side of this issue, nobody back home at the church that I went to is telling me this. And this is the first time I've heard it, but this guy seems to know what he's talking about. right? That's a earth-shattering moment. And it's not just an earth-shattering moment, guys. It's a faith-shattering moment. And so what do we do about this? How do we address this issue? Or is Ehrman just right? I mean, is it just so corrupt we can't understand? And so one of the things that we have to do when we look at this specific argument is we have to dig deeper into the manuscripts, right? And what do I mean by that? We have to come to a general number of how many manuscripts, roundabout number of how many manuscripts we have, and then look at how that compares to the number of variants that's being claimed. So for instance, we have over 5,700 Greek manuscripts. We've got manuscripts that are in Latin, that are Syriac, that are Georgian, Ethiopic, Armenian, and all of these are some of the oldest translations. As far as the non-Greek manuscripts, they are of the same length and detail of the Greek manuscripts. And I love what Blomberg says in his book, The Historical Reliability of the New Testament, because he says this. He says, now, uninterpreted statistics can easily mislead. So can wrongly interpreted statistics. And so what he notes is that if there were only a small number of ancient manuscripts in the New Testament with 200,000 variants, we would have cause for alarm. And here's the thing, guys, as I've just kind of told you, we don't have a small number of ancient manuscripts. Roughly, we have about 25,000 manuscripts of the New Testament. And so what does this mean for you, for me, for that college kid that's listening, for that high school kid that's listening? It means that there are, on average, if there's 200,000 variants spread across 25,000 manuscripts, that means it's 8 variants per manuscript. Now, of course, one error may get repeated in dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of manuscripts, but that doesn't make any given manuscript any less reliable. That is simply due to frequency with which an error in it was duplicated elsewhere, right? So even if, let's go with the extreme here. Let's say that Ehrman's right and there's 400,000 variants spread across 25,000 manuscripts. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means that there are only 16 variants per manuscript. So either way you cut that, between 200,000 and 400,000 spread across 25,000 manuscripts, it's either 8 or 16 variants per manuscript. Now, that's not a big deal, right? I mean, that's not as frightening as it seems on the surface. And so what can we know? We can know a couple of things. Number one, the variance issue on the surface preliminarily is not a big issue, but also it shows you the faithfulness of the scribes in their copying, right? Now, next episode, we're going to look at, what kinds of variants are we looking at? Because to a certain extent, it does matter how many variants there are, which there aren't a lot per manuscript. The other issue is, how devastating are these variants? What variants are extremely significant? Do they play a role in theology? Do they play a role in possibly undercutting something like the divinity of Jesus, or or the existence of God, or something like that? And we'll look at that next episode. But right here, this mainline pop atheism argument of, hey, there's 200,000 to 400,000 variants. You only have 138,000 words. You can't trust a single thing that's in the Bible. That's completely and totally bunk. You just look at them when they say that and you just go, actually, that translates to like 8 variants per manuscript, and at most 16. So that's just a one tool for your belt in this episode. And I hope you remember that. I hope you drive that into your brain. And I hope that if you're a parent or an elder or a preacher listening, I hope you equip your people with that. Because I've known too many college kids who have gone off to college and haven't been prepared in the church, and they go off, they have a class with Bart Ehrman or somebody else, and they hear this for the first time, and they come back home, they're like, man, I'm just not sure about my faith. But this is what we can know. No matter how the skeptics want to slice it and dice it, no matter what Bart Ehrman says in misquoting Jesus, and I know I might sound a little militant, I'm just passionate about it because this is something that I deal with on a daily basis with young people. What they can know is that, hey, even if there's 200,000 variants spread across 25,000 manuscripts, that's 8 variants of manuscripts. And that is phenomenal. That's actually a reason why the New Testament has been transmitted 99.5% accurate. And so as we remember this and as we study this, we need to pass that down as well. All right. So thank you once again, guys, for being with me today. This is Dean Meadows for Dean's Dialogue and the Daily Apologist. Have a great day. God bless. And remember, equip yourself to engage culture.